Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
Question, Steve.
I'm loving how many people there are from literally every corner of the UK. And then I come in here and I'm right slap bang in the middle, the furthest away from any coast or. But no, it's great to see so many people from, Scotland, Wales, England, Ireland, right across the board. I'm going to give a shout out to Elliot and Joel, who before we were chatting when we came on. Hello, everyone, I should say, by the way. But we were chatting before, and they said they have been sort of likened to the Morecambe and Wise of the sort of comms world, if that's a thing. But I was thinking, and Morecambe's in Lancashire, isn't it? So I'm afraid I'm sort of surprised you wanted to even mention that, really, because it's wrong side at Pennines, isn't it, as you would say. So I think Anton Deck's better, if I'm honest. So we'll call you Anton.
Yeah, biker Geordies. Yeah, we like that. We can.
I don't know what that makes Asif, but you can come up with that.
He's like the granddad.
Yeah, all right. You tell him that to his face, then. Right, let's get cracking now. We've got a great panel lined up, and we were having a great chat beforehand. And it always strikes me. I think I say this every time we come to this session, thinking, well, I certainly do. I think, we're going to end up with all the same ones again, and we never do. So much to moan about, isn't it? It's brilliant. So a very quick intro into Room 101. I'm sure most of you have been here for this before, but if you haven't, you've probably seen the series Room 101. So you know what this is about. It's really just a chance to kind of vent your frustration and banish into a kind of place of non-existence, something that really annoys you or irritates you. And we've got a panel lined up who will put forward their thoughts on what they would like to banish. And only one of them will make it through. We started out with, it was far too lovely, Room 101 was. We kind of used to put everything through, and it's like, nah, it's much better when there's a bit of competition to it. So I think we should, just a reminder, that use the chat all the way through. It's always really, really good fun. The chat is on this session. Jonathan has already asked me if I'll do this in my David Attenborough voice. I mean, I can't keep that up. I'm not going to lie. When I do it, I have to do about 50 takes and then somehow piece it together to try and make a sort of 10-second clip. So I'm not going to put you through that. But let's bring in our first. They don't know what the order is because we haven't decided. But I'm going to pick at random. The first person I looked at is Helen Major. So I'm going to bring in Helen, who's from Bridgend College. Hello, Helen.
Good afternoon. Hiya. Hi, Steve.
How's it going?
Very good, thank you.
Good stuff. Right, let's hear it then. Tell us what your Room 101 moan is.
So there's obviously lots of things that we could pick up, but I think the biggest thing for me is email signatures. So very varied types of email signatures. So we're talking about the random fonts, colours, sizes, various different logos. I think lots of people see their email signature as a sort of a creative outlet for them, really. So despite many organizations having very standardized email signatures to create that consistency that we love within marketing and comms, people do love to go rogue and to really kind of showcase their creativity with colors, fonts, logos, and various different things. So that for me is something that I would like to banish to Room 101, is those really inconsistent email signatures.
It's a good one, and I know there'll be plenty. I feel, I'm seeing yeses already. I feel your pain. I've had an experience with this just this week, actually. So this is very topical for me. Tell us then, Helen. Give us some examples. What are the worst ones you've seen?
I think when we see lots of really, really psychedelic, garish colours, we're talking some script fonts going on there. We're talking possibly even an actual email, an actual signature of somebody that they've included within their email signature themselves, rather than just sort of writing their name and their job title. Various different logos, different sizes. So I suppose all those things that we as marketing and communications people don't like to see on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes they're all crammed into that email signature at the bottom of an email.
I love it. We've got some brilliant stuff coming through here. So yeah, I think literally as you said about scripted fonts, that Katie Allen from Public Health Wales said a signature in scripted font is just the worst in capital letters. I think we can all agree on that. I mean, the scripted font's one thing, but you said there, you know, people who actually put their signature in, and it's like, God, if anyone does that in this age, like, talk about open door to like forgery and God knows like what sort of scams that you're opening the door to there. Elliot, though, loves a signature, so he's up for that. Have you ever come across this? Claire Parker from Forest Research says some have inspirational quotes attached to them.
Yeah, I think I've probably seen some of those as well. Yeah.
I think you should have one about email signatures, to be honest. You know, an inspirational but sort of slightly pointed one. I think what we come across a lot is because we standardized all of ours, which I feel a bit sort of almost, you know, it's almost a bit Nazi about it, isn't it? But it was when we rebranded, we had such an issue previously with them that we kind of said to IT, how can we lock these down? So we did that, but it hasn't been hunky dory. It gives you consistency, but you do then get. I mean, actually, the request I had this week was a very legitimate one. It was someone saying, I'd like to have a badge. We get a lot of badge requests. I've got a badge for this qualification, or which people want to showcase. It was for mental health first aid. So we're trying to find a way of incorporating that doesn't completely screw things up. Because the problem is you allow one and you open the door to people going, well, you allowed that one. And it is a really important brand touch point, isn't it, really? And the way I look at it is it's more important that it looks great than it does that it includes other information. Because to be honest, like, do we ever use email signatures for anything but looking for people's contact details? I don't ever recall looking at someone and going, oh, that's a lovely colour, or, you know, I'm interested to see that they've been nominated for an award. It's just not a place you look at that for, is it? Well, that's a great start, Helen. Thank you for that. We've got loads of stuff coming through the chat, which you can see. I'm sure Outlook allowed you to make your text sparkle before, not in a good way. Is it possible to make text sparkle in a good way on an email signature? A great start to Comms Room 101 from Helen there. Email signatures. Keep your thoughts on those coming through. Thanks, Helen. That was great. Right, we're going to move now to Sophia Can.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
It's your second time, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And like Nafisa, we only jumped on board yesterday, and we've been chatting behind the scenes. So we had to come up with something fast. I mean, there's lots. So mine is the use of jargon. And I'm raising this one because I've had 2 weeks of new projects that I'm working on. And after being off work on part like FlexiFola for so long, coming back, I'm just like a rabbit in headlights. And it's like, I've got 17 years experience in comms, but all the jargon, it's just whirling around. And I've got to somehow get this out, just like all comms people, to the public or whoever those messages go to. And it's like, I don't know what it is. So I've got a little chart at the moment where I'm writing them all down and then what the meanings are, just so I can remember. So yeah, for me, it's the use of jargon in comms.
I love it. So were you talking here about jargon by comms professionals or jargon by other people that you have to sort of make sense of, or both, I suppose?
You know, I can sympathise a little bit with people like CEOs and things like that, who are sending us the information, because it is our job as comms people to take that information and make it so others can understand it. It's when our peers do it and you just think, come on, you should know better. Yeah, I just feel like I've had weeks of going, what is that? What does that mean? What context? Are you sure it's the right word? So yeah. It's
a good one. It's a good one. We've got a couple of people. I don't know why, so don't worry about it, Sophia, because I can hear you perfectly fine. We've got a couple of people in the chat saying they can't hear you, but they can hear me. So I'll just relay what Sophia's just said. Jargon, and jargon specifically used by Marcoms people, which I think is a specifically heinous crime, as you've just explained, because our job is to try and simplify things and make them better, isn't it, and more understandable. So get in the chat, share your worst examples of jargon. What have you come across, Sophia, this week then, or previously that sort of particularly inflamed you?
I don't want to share one here because
it does end up on YouTube, so.
But it's usually the 3-letter things. Everybody seems to do the 3 letters, and like, okay, but and you're always anticipating, because I've spent the whole week saying, okay, that's great, I get that, you get that. But if I send that out to media, the first thing they're going to do is come back to me and say, what does that stand for, or what does that mean? So it's usually the 3-letter acronyms, I would say, that have come across over the last all the time.
Yeah, we have words in housing. We have words, I'm sure every sector has, that people just use as standard, and you almost become like immune to them because you see them so often. So units is the one that gets me in housing, which means homes. It's like, well, let's just use home, shall we? But it's just pervasive. It's impossible to get around the use of it because it's just used so much. So I tell you where I see this a lot as well, in job descriptions and job adverts. It's almost like people go into recruitment for Marcoms people thinking, how do I make it sound as convoluted and complicated as it can possibly be, when actually, if you think about it, a job description or job advert for a comms person should be the best, most clear job advert that you get, shouldn't it?
It should, yeah.
Yeah, we've got some ones coming through the chat. We've got RPs. That's one that's used in housing a lot. Registered providers, which in itself is jargon. Like, registered provider of what? Like, just call them a housing association or the council, as a lot of our tenants do. I shouldn't have said that. Can you edit that out when it goes on YouTube? No, it's a really good one, jargon. So thanks for that, Sophia. Let's move on now to our next panelist, who is also from Bridgend College, and I'm assured, because he's got a whiteboard behind him, he's going to draw us lots of pretty pictures when he gives it. Afternoon, Joe. How are you? Joe Baldwin from Bridgend College.
Hi, Steve. I'm good, thanks. And feeling the love for Wales, because I know in one of the YouTube clips I've watched of Comms Room 101, I think you were digging yourself a bit of a hole with a reference to Wales. So great to see so much love in the room this afternoon.
Yeah, I did a little bit. I think it was about internet, wasn't it? I'll say no more than that, because I'm in serious danger of opening that back up. Although I will say, oh no, here we go. I'm doing it. Helen, who was the speaker, she took part in my comms clinic that I do, which is another sort of webinar, and her internet was like absolutely bang on. It's because she's upgraded now. So yes, it was rather derogatory of me, that, Joe. So I apologise to all the Welsh people who are on the call. Tell us what you want to moan about then, Joe.
Well, I was just reflecting, actually, as I was listening to Helen earlier, because Helen may say that the one thing that she wants to put in Comms Room 101 is me, because I work closely with her, and a lot of these strange demands probably feel like they come from me, and a lot of her to-do list is probably led by strange requests from me. But one that we were talking about actually before we came on to the main stage was just around the use of stock photography. But specifically, what I mean by that is people that think it's completely acceptable to Google search an image, and actually when you start to look at a document or a set of PowerPoint slides, because ultimately we're working with a lot of teachers and lecturers across different campuses, is that actually there's no sort of coherence with the images that you use. They're all stock photography. They're not paid for stock photography. They've all got watermarks across them. They're pixelated. They're stretched on slides and documents, and nobody can see any issue at all. So you often play that bad cop of actually going around and policing some of this. But I guess with a serious sort of undertone to it, because we, in the last couple of months, had an issue where an image was used on a document and was put out then in the public domain. And I guess because it was digital, the metadata that was within it was being tracked. And we were then fined as a college for the use of this image, because they could track the reach of the image. So actually, there are some serious consequences to it, but it's just where people don't see any issue watermarkings of stock photography or iPhoto going through an image, and they've used them 3 or 4 times in a document, and often those images have got no relevance to the actual topic.
Yeah, we I think I said to you before, Joe, we came across this before, I think about 2 or 3 comms room 101s ago. But I love the fact that you're bringing this up, because we can never bash stock photography enough. We had an interesting debate actually in the last one about some people said there are times where you just need stock photography, but I think what you're saying is it's not that you've got something against stock photography, it's that you've got something against bad stock photography, isn't it? And there is a lot of it about. Is there a particularly bad example you've seen of a kind of pixelated image, or one that was a picture that someone had sort of, we get somewhere, I think some people, it's such a literal interpretation of what somebody needs. So they'll go, oh, I need a picture of happiness, and it's a smiley face. Have you had any of those?
I think the worst ones, particularly in education, are where you look at an image and you feel like someone is gone with a checklist of everything that they needed to tick off to be encapsulated within one image. So it could be anything from diversity and inclusion to, we've got the right gender mix within an image. Actually, how is this going to hang together in terms of the overall message? And it just feels, does it hit on sustainability? What about things like Welsh language for a college, obviously in Wales? So those are definitely strange ones. But I mean, where it goes to another level is where people have obviously taken the image, and this even happens with the college logo, and they've got some rogue variation of the logo from a Google search when it's available to them in a format that they would want. And then you've got some horrific border, or you've got the white fill on, a full color page spread or slide. And again, people look and they genuinely think that they've done a fantastic job. They think that they are absolutely punching, and we're like, are we looking at the same thing? No. I
know, it's crazy, isn't it? Really. Christian Ross, who's from the Housing Executive, hi Christian, says in the chat, when people upload logos or images and pixelate them and they don't bother fixing them, it's incredible to us, isn't it? I think that you can't. It's a serious point. I think a lot of people are actually just sort of not clued into things like that. And trying to do that trying to sort of get around that in a constructive but friendly and also pointed way is a real challenge, isn't it? Really, you mentioned diversity, and I think there's a lot of levity in Room 101, because that's the sort of point of it, really. But your point about you've got a fine is a kind of sober reminder to people, isn't it? Really, that there are consequences to this stuff. I mean, somebody said on the chat, the internet, it's everyone's right. And I think, again, some people think that, that you can Google image search and just pick off whatever you need for whatever purpose. So a really good reminder there to and probably a good tool actually to colleagues on the call, that, if you're ever asked why people can't use the image, well, there's an example right there. Is, you can end up being fined for it. But you also mentioned diversity. And I wanted to pick up on that, because I think we get a lot of, there's been times in organizations I've worked for where somebody has said, we need an image which sums up diversity. And I'm like, what is that? What is that? That's not a thing. You shouldn't need to go out of your way to find an image that represents diversity. If you've captured photos of people in your organization, I mean, it depends, of course, where you work and the demographic of your customer base and your staff. But clearly, the point of representing diversity is you're representing those people. So if you've got a good bank of photographs of your staff and your customers, you'll find that actually it becomes easier, because you're just using a diverse bank of photographs. You never want to put yourself in a position where I'm doing a story about diversity, so I need to pick a picture that represents diversity, because you'll end up with those hands in a circle, and it's a black person, an Asian person, and a white. It's awful stuff that just doesn't work. So I think there's a number of really important points here. But one I would say, and I always say this to people, is, for God's sake, invest in some good photographs that you take, or that you purchase as stock photos. But as you said, Joe, they're good stock photos. People have issues with bad stock photos. If you use Shutterstock or other image banks, you can find some really, really good stock photos that you can use that will look like they've been taken out in your communities or whatever. The ideal is you would actually do that. And everywhere I've ever gone, we've done that. We've said, okay, this, like, wherever possible, let's spend the 150 quid or whatever it is to get a photographer out, because you'll use those images again and again, and you'll build up a bank of them. And as long as you've got your consents in order, you're sorted then. Anyway, sorry, I've gone off on a bit of a rant then. Let's see what the chat's been saying. It's a really good one, Joe. Thank you for that. We've got Adam Driver here. PNG over JPEG and SVG ideal for web. You're right, Steve. You don't know what you don't know. Consult a designer. Yeah, there's the point that, you know, it's always best to ask, isn't it, rather than do it wrong. Jonathan Flay-Petty. My wife works at the college. I'm off to check her presentations. So there you go. You've got somebody who's going to do a bit of a checkup job for you there, Joe. And again, Jonathan, this is where branding comes in for me. Some people think it must have A or B in the image, or a collection of images to make up one logo or image. Oh. And Linda Hughes, quite rightly, from Northern Ireland Housing Executive, to me, it's laziness or below par comms work. I think that sums it up. So a really good choice. Thanks for that, Joe. Are you going to draw us one before you go?
I mean, there's been so much talk about the whiteboard. I feel under incredible pressure to use the whiteboard. So give me a couple of minutes. All right,
we'll give you a couple of minutes, and we might come back to you and see what you've come up with. Cheers, Joe. Right, well, we've saved a former. I'm just going to put a lot of pressure on her now because it's just fun. We've got a former champion here. Not only someone who's taken part. It's comms here at Comms Room 101 royalty today, because we've had Sophia who's on here for the second time. We've now got Nafisa Shafiq, who won. Nafisa's from University of Leeds. Afternoon, Nafisa. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I think you're in the exact same position you were last time, because I definitely recognise those, even though they're white. I recognise the door set.
Wardrobes. I basically kicked the youngest out of her room so I can have her room as like office space whilst we're working from home. Such a considerate parent, but
good work. Good work.
She won't know. She's 2, so she won't know yet anyway.
Oh yeah, exactly. You might as well use that opportunity, really. So Nafisa's another, I will say, called in at fairly last minute, so no pressure on you. You know, you're only a former champion and you've only had no time to prepare.
See, that makes
everybody remembers the story from last time, so you know, go on, Nafisa, tell us what you want to put in.
See, I was thinking of telling another story. I was going to, but I haven't had time to prep it or think through it. And then I realized, actually, so last time I came on, I talked about meetings and meetings without agendas and people putting in meetings at times, you know, without checking your diary. That's happened again. Somebody put one in at 9:10, 9:10, because they thought that's the end of their school run, but didn't realize that's not the end of my school run. So that still happens. I did want to talk about technology and how we use technology. It's that whole, you're logging in, I've got at the moment, so we use Teams. I'm part of 29 teams on Teams. So different spaces, if anybody doesn't know about it. And within each team, you have like different channels as well. So people tag you, sometimes they don't tag you, and you're expected to pick up work through them, your emails, the chats that are happening. So I was going to say put technology in there, but then I realized technology isn't the issue. Meetings wasn't the issue as well. It was people. And I'm so sorry to say this, but it's people and the way that they work. So I just want to put people into room 101. I know that's really I know it's controversial, and I know I might get some hate from it, because that means I'm putting myself in there as well. But it's people that are not considerate in any way. So whether it's how they use technology, whether it's how they're putting meetings in, whether it's how they're writing those emails and like filling them with jargon, I just think it should be people. And I'm just going to finish there, because I think it's a hole I'm digging and it will get bigger. So I'm just going to stop now.
No, I think this is brilliant. I mean, I think you've made a case for the end of, almost like the end of humanity, really, in 2021, haven't you? There, like, no technology, no people. I mean, it would finish us off, really. You know, we wouldn't be able to do this again. That's the only problem. But no, I think I get you. I think where we ended there was inconsiderate people.
Inconsiderate people.
you're not going to get hate for. You're going to get a lot of love, I would expect.
Yeah.
I think that thing of like all the different channels that you mentioned there is a really important one, actually, because it's overload, isn't it? And I think it does bring issues of like accountability as well, because frankly, I don't like, there needs to be some agreement about what is a channel by which you brief someone on a piece of work that you need. Because is that Teams? Is it an email? Like, what are we missing? It would be so. Are you finding that people then are kind of in one of your 29 channels? Are they going, "Oh, why haven't you done this?" Yeah, okay.
All the time. I think there was a point last year, so over summer, when I was actually going to update the status. So you can update your status on Teams as well for those that don't use it, a bit like you would say on Facebook, or like in the olden days, you'd have MSN. So you can update your status. And I was going to actually say, if you've got a work request, please email it through just to manage it. But then I thought that will come across as really bad and really arsey to people. I should watch my language, sorry. So I do think it's that. I think it's people not being considerate. It's that let's create a team or a chat for the sake of it and not use it or define how we're using it. And again, I think it's how we think through things and processes. So I think there's that element of it. But yeah, inconsiderate people, I think. Yeah.
I like it. I think you've definitely, I mean, someone just put, Lee said MSN, loved MSN.
Yeah.
You've definitely created some love for MSN. I mean, I also ASL. Oh my God. I'm we were talking about, like, Sophia now is like, oh my God, I've just put 3-letter acronyms in Room 101, and now we're literally just getting like one after the AOL, BRB, BBM. Sorry, Sophia. MSN, I've still got the email address that I set up when I was like 13, and it like went Stevie1986@hotmail.com when I was like 13. Was like, oh, that's a wicked email address you've got. Yeah. And now I'm like, it's not so great now. I didn't future-proof that one, did I really?
I still have mine as well. I use it. I use it mainly for all of like the newsletters and again, jargony type of things. So all of that comes in there. I think it's still running in terms of nothing gets deleted. It's probably over like 50,000 emails that haven't been read in there, but most of it is stuff that you just have to sign up to.
Yeah, same
but
here.
Again, why technology and people need to think through things.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, when people are saying to you based on your email address, oh, you'll be able to have the vaccine now, it's kind of not what you wanted really when you set it up. Jonathan Flay-Petty's asked a serious question here, which is unusual for Room 101. So let's ask it. He says, do you think because of the pandemic and chaos, we've lost touch as humans and end up using every other method to contact each other?
I think personally there's... let me think about it so it comes out right, actually. I think there's something about how we are using technology at the moment, and we're deprived of that human connection. So for example, like those water cooler chats, or the in the kitchen chats that we'd have in the office, we don't have them anymore. So people are trying to replace them with things like the chat function. I'm actually one of those inconsiderate people where I'll do the random calls as well if I've got a question, just to try to recreate the olden days, like the pre-pandemic days. But I think there's an element of that. I think people are missing some of the normal things, and they just don't think through it in the same way. Meetings, again, we normally wouldn't put in 5 meetings at the same time for one particular person if they had to turn up somewhere. So it's thinking through that. Yeah,
it is. I think this goes back to your winner as well, doesn't it? From before, it almost, there's a need for a whole new etiquette around some of this stuff, isn't there? Really, that people are sort of just stumbling their way through at the moment. So it's, but inconsiderate people. God, I've always said, I think just for 1 week, we should do a non-comms related Room 101, because I'd love that. But I'd want somebody else to chair it, because I'd have about 12 things I'd want to put in there. So inconsiderate people is the closest we've got to that, really. A couple of people commenting on this. You've started a bit of a debate here. So I think because we have to rely heavily on technology to interact and work during the pandemic, people have started to see humans as machines too. I think it's a good point. just people behind the screen, isn't it, rather than people that you catch up with as we used to. Claire, though, makes a good point. Claire Parker, again, from Forest Researchers. My offices are all over the country. Teams has actually improved connectivity far better than phone calls. So that's an interesting take on it. Sophia's just chimed in with, I never like the water cooler or photocopier chat. I don't like small talk. Sorry, not sorry. So, Teams is probably ideal for her. Jonathan Villa would be straight in there if we could do a non-comms related. Right, let's stop there. Nafisa, that's a very good one. That brings us through. We've done the panel. I wondered if Joel or Elliot, did you want to come back in and see if there's anybody, because we've got a bit of time, if there's anybody from the chat who wanted to come on and give their idea?
Absolutely, we've got
Thanks,
five.
Nafisa.
We've got 5 minutes, so let's see if anybody wants to come up from the audience and put an entry into comms room 101.
Well, you see, I can use it as my decision-making time, and Joe can use it to draw his nice picture on the whiteboard, although he said since... I've
actually got it.
Oh, you've done it? Oh, let's see it. Shutterstock. Love it.
So you all actually thought that was a real whiteboard. It's actually my Shutterstock green screen virtual backdrop.
Love that, Joe. Love that.
Excellent effort. I like that. That's scored you a few extra
points.
We've
got Elliot's got a few Shutterstock images that he wants to share with you that he's found quite quickly and thinks they're appropriate.
Let's do it. Let's see them.
Yeah, we're inspired by Joe's talk on Shutterstock. So let me see if I can do this. Let's share my entire screen. Can we all see that? Okay. So,
brilliant!
We really enjoyed this sales guy on the beach because it represents Joel really nicely. Actually,
is that Nick Cullen? If he's on the that looks so like Nick Cullen.
He's on annual leave enough to warrant that picture. We've got the happy guy at his desk, which I think is quite a strong one. But I thought just for Joe, I think, with his whiteboard, there had to be some homage there to what Joe's been doing for the Shutterstock world. So I think that has to be seen on a few educational documents from now on.
Yeah. I mean, scroll back again to that last one, Elliot, the guy holding the phone up. What is going on there? He doesn't look, it's sort of a mixture of, it looks like a mixture of like happiness, but he's not happy because
he's been held to ransom by the looks of it.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, maybe he's getting confused because I don't know what's happening there.
He's just completed a creative brief.
That looks like someone who is
at some point.
He looks like he's completely overwhelmed by, and he doesn't know whether to put the phone to his ear or. Katie says, classic salesman does a deal. Yeah, I mean, I can't believe they went with that one. Like, they should have just gone with one where he was smiling at least. But they're such great examples. It's that even that watermark, the Shutterstock watermark, just sends shudders down your spine, doesn't it? But yeah, I think it's, I suppose if I had one piece of advice, that sort of sensible advice on stock images, it's if you use them, and if you use any images for any purpose, whether it's your intranet, your website, social media, whatever, try and get out of the habit of thinking, I need to think literally about it. Because if it doesn't need to be specific, if it's something about customers, and if it's something about customer feedback, have a nice picture of a customer. Don't have a picture of a ballot box or one of those awful, smiley face and sad face things with someone touching it. Just have a nice customer picture. It doesn't need, people think way too literally about it and think they need thousands and thousands of images. Get a good stock of customer images and staff images, whether they're real images, preferably, or not. And you'll find that you'll be able to use, there will always be those niche ones, because someone in IT will come along and say, I need you to do a picture about, security certification, and you're always going to have to end up using the padlock or some awful thing but by and large,
Steve, you've been sort of treading for time for long enough now. Are we gonna make? You gonna make a decision?
Okay, yeah, you've called me out. You've called me out. You've called me out. Fair enough. Yeah, I have made a decision. It's because I feel the pain of it so much, and I think it is genuinely a really good one, an important one. Well done to Helen Major for picking email signatures. There are some really good ones there, but that's the one for me that gets me.
Speech, Helen.
Well, thank you to all those really bad signatures I've seen that's given me inspiration for this afternoon.
You'll have to send them an email now to thank them with a terrible signature, just to pay homage to them as well. But I hope we haven't got you. I hope I haven't got you into too much trouble with Joe as well.
Thank you.
Helen's got a dodgy email signature. I've just not told.
Lovely stuff. Well, that brings us to the end, I think. So just to say a big thank you to Joe, to Helen, and also to Sophia and Nafisa, who joined us sort of fairly late on and did a cracking job of coming up with suggestions as well. I think it would have been too much to give Nafisa a second crown. We don't want her to get cocky. We need to keep her on her toes for future ones. But thanks to everybody for taking part. It's always great fun. It's always nice to have a moan, and I hope you're ready now for your fitness bit and then to enjoy the rest of the day. Cheers, guys.